Ever since the series' inception, Splatfests have always been an integral element of the Splatoon experience. Every month, most of the time, the player base is given a debate topic with 2 or 3 options, having to pick the option they think is the best and fight for its supremacy via turf war matches. But Splatfests have always been the target of criticism from a significant portion of the player base, especially the more dedicated fans. What some people may be wondering though is, why are Splatfests so hated by the more dedicated Splatoon fan base? Well, today I'm going to go over all the problems I, a casually competitive player who's rescored all but 2 Splatfests, and many others have with the mode, and talk about how they make the experience worse for everyone involved. Before we get into it, if you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel if you wish. I'm trying to get myself out there as a content creator that specializes in Splatoon specifically, and I'm trying to reach 450 subs before the end of the year. Let's get into it. First off, how do Splatfests in Splatoon 3 work? Well, a week before the Splatfest starts, voting opens, and after picking a team, players can earn conch shells, with the team earning the most conch shells on average before the Splatfest gaining points for it. Then, for the first half of the Splatfest, people can choose to play in either Open, where you can play with friends on the same Splatfest team as you if you wish, or Pro, where you go in alone, with both being their own separate category that awards an equal amount of points based on the amount of clout each team earns, which is based on winning, along with how much turf you inked in a set game. After the first 24 hours, there's a halftime report that shows the team currently in the lead, and this is when Tricolor Turf War becomes available. If the first place team is put on defense, or the second or third place teams get put on the attack, they will earn a 1.5 times clout bonus for Tricolor matches. Tricolor Turf War makes up its own category, which awards significantly more points than the other 3 previously mentioned categories. Lastly, there is also a category that awards the most popular team. The team with the most points wins the Splatfest, which awards the winning team a small bonus to Super C Snails, which can be used for working on creating optimal gear. Of course, this surface level explanation of Splatfest makes the mode sound incredibly simple, and in theory shouldn't cause such hatred, but when you look deeper into the mode, its problems become very obvious. First off, let's talk about the elephant in the room that anyone can bring up just by playing a single Splatfest. Anarchy Series and Open, along with X-Battles, are entirely unavailable to the player base for the duration of the Splatfest. This means that if you want to play in what the game itself describes as the more serious modes, well, you're out of luck. You can only play Turf War in solo or friends, and Tricolor for the last 24 hours. Oh yeah, and for some reason Samurai is also available, but hey, I'm not complaining. Now, I'm no game designer, but I don't think it's a great idea to walk away part of a game that people pay $60 for any period of time under any circumstance. Especially during the weekend, which is the time of week where the player base will generally be most active, and I don't really think that people are dying to play non-stop Turf War for a few hours with that weekend, and would at least like options to spice it up, other than Sand Run, Table Turf, and Private Battles, given they have friends who are able and willing to commit to that option. This forces a significant portion of the player base, from little Timmy who got the game a few days ago running around playing Junior on sticks, to players for the best teams in the West, to all be funneled into the same 2 or 3 playlists for a weekend, which not only makes competitive players who want to play the modes that will actually be of use when playing in tournaments, unless you're Nintendo, who loves to push Turf War onto that scene, mad, but it also has a direct impact on the casuals who are at risk of getting queued against those players as a result. Remember this infamous tweet from the early Splatoon 3 days? Problems like these could be alleviated with some simple changes, but 8 years later, they still exist, and players both casual and hardcore competitive have suffered for it. This means that games where one team gets stomped become way more common, due to a greater likelihood of massive imbalances between teams. There's a system in place to try and match you up with players of roughly a similar skill level, but it doesn't feel like it really helps that much in my experience. Every Splatfest, I'll have games where I crush the enemy team, along with my games where it feels like I can't do anything, and neither side of the spectrum is really much fun for anyone involved. Especially when you have to worry about the threat of losing everything you've worked for by losing one team fight towards the end of the game on one side, which makes the first 2/3 of the game feel rather meaningless. But enough about how Turf War can be as a mode, because that's the least of the problems with Splatfests. Next, let's talk about the themes of Splatfest, because in 3, I don't think I'm breaking many hearts when I say a lot of the themes we've gotten have left a lot to be desired. Due to Splatfest now being worldwide, with the exception of the November 2023 Splatfest, as of writing this video, the devs now have to try and come up with themes that will fit multiple cultures that differ vastly from each other, and due to that, the viable options have become noticeably more limited, which has stifled creativity even further than before. Now, it's not like all themes were winners back when Splatfest were regional, but in this game, it feels a lot more apparent that they're having a harder time coming up with good themes. There's been many times where the teams have had hilariously unbalanced popularity, whether it be due to cultural beliefs, or they're just flat out being an objectively correct answer to the question being presented. Along with the fact that you can only play people from the Splatfest region that you choose anyway, did it ever really make sense to make Splatfest worldwide to begin with? Going back to the gameplay, some of the really big problems start to rear their head when TROR becomes available. Starting with the problem that anyone who's played TROR Turf War can tell you, the devs are really hit and miss with the balance and quality of these maps, as some are fine, and others we don't talk about. For a mode that was, and kind of still is designed to be a comeback mechanic based on how much weight it holds when it comes to the results, a TROR map that's heavily favored in one direction feels like a slap in the face to the team or teams it's screwing over. Speaking of the amount of weight TROR holds, it's absolutely ridiculous. TROR is worth a whopping 18 points in comparison to 12 for Open and Pro, 8 for popularity, and 7 for the sneak peek. It's worth so much more in fact, that if any given team wins the TROR category, they then just need to win one of the Open or Pro categories in order to win the Splatfest, which we saw happen in the most recent Splatfest for regions other than Japan, where Shiver's team won despite winning fewer categories than the second place team. Splatoon 2's Splatfest scoring may not have been the best either, but at least you can't say that a team can win a Splatfest while winning fewer categories than the losing team. Next up, we have to talk about the newest problem that's been blamed for Fly not winning yet again in North America and Europe: mirror matches. Mirror matches are a side effect of the previously mentioned problem of unbalanced teams, as if one team is small, the other teams pay for it by having to go against their own team a lot more often. This results in games that are meaningless to the overall results, and only serve as a way for the winning team to get closer to reaching rewards. A lot of these games just evolve into 3-minute squid parties that are a waste of time for everyone involved. Of course, these are a necessary evil to make sure that unpopular teams aren't doomed to get smoked in cloud numbers, but maybe the responsibility should fall on the developers to make better themes in order to prevent imbalances like this that cause mirror matches to become as commonplace as they are in Splatfest. Getting mirror match after mirror match after mirror match is really discouraging and can make it feel as though I don't really have an impact on the results of a Splatfest. But there's still one greater issue that I think is not just poorly executed, but perhaps also an example of poor intentions on the part of the developers. The thing that I hate the most about Splatfest is how much the game makes it feel like you're forced to play to get certain rewards. I've often said that this game feels like a FOMO simulator at times, and this is the first example that comes to mind when I say that. Splatfests have 2 collectibles that can only be earned by participating in them: Conch Shells and Super Sea Snails. Conch Shells are more harmless, so I'll talk about them first. Starting after you pick your Splatfest team, for every level you go up on your in-game catalog, you'll receive a Conch Shell. Conch Shells can be traded in for 1 free spin of the game's gacha machine, which costs 30,000 gold, aside from the 5,000 first play of the day pool. If you have any Conch Shells unused at the end of the fest, they get converted into 2,000 gold each. With how costly certain aspects of this game can be, Conch Shells are a bit of a godsend for some players, who can have one less thing to worry about spending their money on every so often. That being said, it doesn't compare to the fact that Sea Snails are Splatfest exclusive. Super Sea Snails can be used to either add slots onto your gear, or scrub gear in order to reroll its slots. With how much gold adding slots can cost, Sea Snails are an extremely valuable thing to have, which you can only get through Splatfests, and you get more depending on how high your rank is at the end of the event, along with a small bonus for being on the winning team. What makes this especially insulting though, is the fact that in previous games in the series, there were other ways to earn Sea Snails rather than just participating in Splatfests. In Splatoon 1, you got a Sea Snail for every 30 battles you won, and in 2, you got a snail for every level up you had past level 30. The only reason I can think of for removing this was to further make players feel as though they're forced to participate in Splatfest, and I feel as though the only reason for forcing said participation is to artificially keep player counts higher, which reflects in a lot of other parts of Splatoon 3 as a game, especially the aforementioned catalogs. It's the one part of this game that I would say actively feels like scummy game design in my opinion, rather than just poorly executed game design, and it's disappointing that developers seemingly opted to go this route to me. And those are my thoughts on Splatfest. Overall, I think what makes the current experience bad is a mix of the fact that there's a mix of poor execution and possibly poor intention in the design of Splatfest, along with the fact that some of these problems have been problems ever since the beginning. So, how could some of these problems be fixed? Well, first off, let's start with a simpler change. Splatfests are going to become regional again, as nothing is really lost by separating based on the player's selected Splatfest region, and I feel it would open up some more room for creativity of themes again, although obviously there'd still be some duds. Along with that, Super Sea Snails will go back to being able to be handed out after every level up past multiplayer level 30. Next up, if you watch my Chill Season video, You already know that I've said Splatfest should be revamped to have open and pro categories for anarchy modes, and get rid of the popularity category, as all points for Splatfest should have to be earned, not just given out in my opinion. Lastly, the scoring of certain categories, specifically Tricolor, is going to be adjusted so that there's no way that the winning team can win fewer categories than the second place team, although Tricolor will still be worth more points so it can somewhat maintain its status as a category meant to help propel teams that are trailing to a victory. And that's all I have to say. What do you think about Splatfest in their current form? What, if anything, would you change about them? Feel free to put down your ideas in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.